So it took me like 30 minutes just walking around to find this wheelchair, and no one spoke English, so they had to find someone to speak English to show me where to go. I'm just saying, this irritates me. See that? You still have to go through Thanksgiving first, guys. Oh, and just from walking around, I can already tell I'm not going to fit into any of these aisles here. They're so thin, like I have no idea how I'm going to get a wheelchair through. It's ridiculous. Okay, my arms are already tired. I haven't really made much progress of wheeling. And I realized that I walk really fast, and going in a wheelchair goes so much slower. So it's like really hard to no, I'm not going anywhere very fast. And when I try to go fast, my arms start to hurt so bad. Over friendly, you know? So that's an interesting thing. Yeah, it's been an interesting experience so far. I get a lot of stares. Oh my god. But I'm gonna try going into Hot Topic. Oh, and I can't film while I'm like pushing my wheelchair. So each of these are gonna be updates because I can't push and like videotape. I wish I could. These aisles are way too small. Closed it. The guy who worked here had to move some boxes so I could get down an aisle, and now I can't go anywhere. This is too small. I know. The thing that I realized is that getting out of the wheelchair, your whole body feels disoriented. Like I felt like I was like walking on something that wasn't level, like the floor is moving underneath me. I don't know how to explain it. My body just felt so weird afterwards, and it was like I wasn't walking still. Sure that you would know where the place to rent a wheelchair is, because I had to walk all the way across the mall just to go rent a wheelchair, and then when I dropped it off I had to go through the whole mall again and pass everything I originally passed in the wheelchair. So I was like kind of keeping my head down, like hopefully no one recognizes me and is like, hey, she's walking now, like why was she in a wheelchair before? Also, wearing heavy clothing was not a good idea because I got such a workout, and so now I'm like sweating, and now outside is hot and my air conditioning's not cooling me down. So it's definitely wearing a lot of clothing in the heat is not good. So it's really hard to like judge, because usually I'm always so cold inside that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make sure that I don't freeze, but instead I got a workout and so now I'm sweating. So if you're in a wheelchair and you're going to be pushing yourself inside, that I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I don't freeze, but instead I got to work out, and so now I'm sweating. So if you're in a wheelchair and you're going to be pushing yourself, you have to like account for how's the weather going to be. Am I going to be moving a lot? Am I going to get cold? Am I going to get hot? Like you just need a plan ahead of what are you. Also, being 6 foot tall as a female, like I stand over most men and women. And to be in that wheelchair, you were just so small and you were looking up to everyone. It was kind of intimidating to like have someone come over and like try and talk to you, or like even just being nice. You're like, oh wow, like this person's standing over me, like I don't know what to do. And it just got kind of like strange being shorter and looking up to everyone and everything. You know, I was basically level with everyone's butts. So it was just like, oh hi, this is all I see from down here. Everything looked so big, and it was just, except lengthwise it was too small, so then I couldn't go into most areas, and it was just such a weird feeling of just trying to make sure, oh, can I get in this area, or can I get in this area? Oh wow, you're standing right over me and you're a big person. Also, being in Miami is really difficult because I don't know Spanish, so even just trying to get the wheelchair originally, I had to wait about 20 minutes just for this lady to call over her other coworker who spoke English. And instead I had to go over to her because like she was working. So then after waiting 20 minutes, I ended up just going to where she was the whole time to go ask her where these wheelchairs were. And she really barely even knew English, so it was like really hard to understand where she was telling me what to do, because she could barely like communicate where I was supposed to go. She was kind of like, other side of the mall, walk that way. And I was like, okay, cool, thanks. So not knowing Spanish definitely made it difficult. Even just like when I was in the bathroom and the door kind of shut on me, the lady spoke to me in Spanish, or I'd be walking down and someone would say something to me in Spanish and I'm like, I don't know what you're saying, but thank you, bye. Like, it was definitely hard. So about 15 to 20 minutes of my project, the wheelchair simulation, have disappeared from my phone and I'll never be able to get them back. The same day that I did the simulation, I did a summary, and I will still be putting that into the video that you will be seeing next, and hopefully it still makes sense. I lost everything in between the last video that you'll see of that you saw of Hot Topic, and me giving my own summary in the car. And then today I rolled around in a wheelchair for about 3 hours, so it's been a pretty active day. On a more serious note now, we're going to start the summary of my project. So, introduction. So my project was to roll around in a wheelchair for about 2 to 3 hours and experience with someone who is in a wheelchair 24/7 experiences on a daily basis going through in a public space. We were supposed to understand what barriers they go through, what it's like interacting with people, the reactions you have to the people, what the people have as a reaction towards you being in a wheelchair. Overall, it was a very good experience. I used to think that I understood everything about kind of being in a wheelchair because my sister had cerebral palsy and was in a wheelchair, but I learned today that I definitely did not, and assuming that I did was not a very good assumption. It's definitely a major difference, actually. So the next part of my summary is skill analysis. So this is supposed to be what I got better at during the day. And my skill progressed of directing the wheelchair as I was riding around. I was terrible at first. I ran into the wall, literally just hit the wall. It was a straight, narrow hallway and I still went into the wall. I don't know how I did that, but it was really funny. No one else laughed except for me, but that's okay. Oh god. Sorry. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so I also hit a garbage can and I just kind of didn't understand how to drive it at first. It was very difficult, but as the day progressed, I got better and was understand how to drive it at first. It was very difficult, but as the day progressed, I got better and was. Another part of my skill analysis is that in the very beginning, my arms hurt really bad in the first few seconds, but the more I went, it was just kind of like a steady pain and not just like an excruciating pain. And so I was still able to keep going. My arms got used to it. They're like, okay, just take breaks and then you should be fine. I was still able to decide where I wanted to go in my wheelchair, except I was going very slow, which was infuriating. So it was taking the patience. I was still able to decide where I wanted to go in my wheelchair, except I was going very slow, which was infuriating. So it was taking the patience, and so the experiment kind of helped me like deal with my patience of not being able to go really fast and just kind of take my time and enjoy what I was doing instead of always being at my fast-paced self where I'm like passing people and I get annoyed if they're walking slow and I can just divot around anyone to get to. So that was the first part of my summary that I still have and it did not disappear. So now I will be continuing the rest of my summary with the barriers and the reactions and all that. So the barriers that I had to go through were walls, garbage cans, boxes, and small aisles. One of the videos that disappeared was the garbage can when I tried to use the bathroom and I could not get into the bathroom. I hit the door frame, and then right as I got through the door frame, I hit the garbage can that was right in front. And then after bumping into that about 4 times, I finally went around it and bumped into the stall. And then after I tried to leave the bathroom, I bumped into the stall again, and a lady had to open up the door for me so that I could get out. Everything about using the bathroom is a major barrier that I can't believe that people have to go through on a daily basis, because just to get out of that bathroom, it probably took me about 5 minutes just to get out of the stall. Like, it was just terrible. And I wish I still had that video because it was actually kind of funny looking back at it. But during the time, it was very frustrating. Another barrier is people staring. When I was in Hot Topic, I lost that video as well. There was a lady who would not stop staring at me the entire time that I was in there. And I could see her in a mirror just watching every little thing I did. When I tried to leave, when I turned around, she was still staring at me, and it wasn't like a curious stare. It was kind of like very not nice there. And I mean, she was very blatant about it. Her friend was very blatant about it. Like, they were just, I don't know, it was very uncomfortable. Going slow is another barrier. I hate going slow so much, and to be in a wheelchair where I can't go as fast as I usually do, it's not something I'm used to. I hate when people would randomly stop and you would have to just very quickly stop your wheelchair as you're rolling, and you finally got the momentum to be going somewhat fast, and then now you have to stop and now you're stuck behind someone. And you have to be extra careful because the front of your wheelchair where your feet are is made of metal, and if you hit their ankles, it's going to hurt them a lot more than it's going to hurt you. And when you're just walking, you know, if you bump into someone, you're just using your body, and it's not as painful as if you hit the metal footrest. Videotaping was another barrier because you had to be very subtle about it. So I would usually try and go down a hallway or some other area that I could do it in private, and people still walk by. And also, being in a wheelchair, you already have eyes staring at you. So when you're on your phone, like taking a video, it was very difficult. When I was in the stores, I wish I still had those videos. You could see I used to go behind like the clothing racks and just like film behind a clothing rack where no one could see me in the back of the store. But yeah, so those were some of the barriers that I had to go through during the simulation. So now for the reaction part. I got a lot of stares from a lot of different people. Most of them were nice, which is really good. Sometimes you just didn't want to be having everyone stare at you. But from doing the simulation and going into Hot Topic where I was treated not very nicely, I mean, they weren't mean, it was just I was really ignored and being stared at for a long period of time. Whereas when I went to Bath and Body Works, the greeter was incredibly nice. He came over to me and he was like, "How are you doing, love?" And at first it was a little weird being called love, but some people just naturally say little endearments like that just to he's the greeter, so he has to be very nice to you. And so at first I was kind of like, oh, that's a little strange. And he had walked across all the way from one side of the store to where I was. But then when he was like, if you need anything, let me know and I will help you. And he goes, enjoy walking around the store. So I realized that in his way, he was trying to make sure that I felt comfortable if I needed anything to go ahead and ask him. Whereas when I was in Hot Topic, it was kind of like, do I ask this person to move the boxes? I didn't want to be a burden on him or the other people working there. Whereas when I went into Bath and Body Works, it was kind of like, this is my job and I'm here to help you and let me know what you need help with, which was really reassuring and kind of put me more at ease than the other side where I was in Hot Topic and I felt like a burden. So it's that made me think about, would I rather be ignored or would I rather have someone be over friendly and try and make me feel comfortable? And I've kind of realized I'd rather someone be nice and make me feel comfortable. So, but of course, if you're in a wheelchair 24/7, you probably have had so many experiences of people being overly friendly, or you just have so many experiences of being ignored, and it's just so different from if you're not in a wheelchair. Another reaction that I got, I had gone into H&M and asked the people at the front desk to take a picture of me because no one was really there and they were just kind of talking. And so they're the only people during this whole simulation that I told, like, oh, I'm in a wheelchair for a project, because I didn't want to be weird and just be like, hey, can you take a picture of me randomly in your store in a wheelchair? Which that picture's gone very sadly. So I kind of explained, hey, I'm in like this wheelchair assessment project, can you take a picture? And at first they were like, what? Why are you in a wheelchair? That's weird. And they just were really put off, and I actually, as I was wheeling away, I could hear them talking about me and how weird it was that I was doing this project. And when I turned around, they realized that I heard them. So the one lady kind of came over and she didn't apologize, but she was just like, oh, trying to be nice. Do you want to spin our wheel where you can get a coupon and stuff? And then she kind of worked in to ask me more questions about the simulation and why I was doing it. And I explained to her it was like to just experience what someone else experiences on a daily basis. Since being in recreational therapy, you work with people in wheelchairs all the time. So it's good to be in their shoes for a day And so I explained all of that to her, and she was very intrigued, and she was like, oh wow, that's really cool that you were doing this experience to like get to know what they go through. So having a positive experience from her and probably going back to her friends and kind of like explaining that, it definitely was a good feeling that I made them kind of think outside of their own bubble and their box into something that they might never have thought of before. And again, those were the only people that I broke simulation, just so that I could get a picture. So yeah.